So I'm here at the Nice International Filmmaker Festival 2017 with producer and filmmaker Susan Downs, who's joined us at the festival with her documentary film The Big Secret. Congratulations on your successful nominations. So Susan, tell the audience, obviously that's not aware of the subject matter of The Big Secret, what it's about and what your involvement's been in it.
Well, The Big Secret is, it started with my film partner, Alex Voss, who had some health problems and he wasn't finding help. He found a naturopath and his condition improved. So he started doing this research, not knowing what he would find. And he found that our system does not seem to be oriented to help us. For example, typically in allopathic medicine, I'm a physician, we prescribe pills when the disease gets to a very late stage. I mean, something goes wrong, we give a pill, we mask the symptoms and create new ones. There's ways to find out 20 years ahead of time which way the body's going and do prevention, but this is like disease management or sick care. So, and also the research is about 20, 30 years ahead of what the doctors are doing. So what concerns me is that doctors are not aware what they don't know. For example, looking at the wrong cardiovascular risk factors, or don't know how to do the thyroid assessment properly. They don't seem to understand what triggers autoimmune disease and what we can do to slow it down.
So a quick interjecting statement, are you saying they're not educated enough, or just the fact that others are researching better?
I think in any case, it's always going to be that the research is about 20, 30 years ahead of what the doctors are practicing and what they're teaching in medical school. There's a lot of new research coming out. For example, if somebody's diabetic, the doctor waits till your blood sugar gets to what we Americans call 126, then you've got the t-shirt and a jacket and you're a member of the club. But in diabetes, you've got 4 times the risk of cardiovascular disease and increased risk for dementia. You have these risks increased long before the doctor's ever going to notice any changes.
And would you say that's a global medical issue?
Everybody. Diabetes is very connected with every other disease, dementia, heart disease. 4 times increased risk for heart disease, increased risk for dementia. But a lot of people have these increased risks before the doctor's going to know it. There's other tests you can do to find that out.
You see, like diabetic, or have it like being a diabetic, you think I'm a diabetic, and obviously then if people have their insulin and things like that, and just think it's something they have to live with, but without realising everything else that then, as you say, comes with that, and it is a massive risk in terms of then heart and additional bits. So.
But the thing that concerns me is a lot of people have those same risks before the doctors can even know that they're on that pathway. There's other tests that can be done, but the doctors don't know about them. The research is always ahead of what doctors are practicing.
So the story of The Big Secret, and obviously how it's then come about. Tell us a little bit about the initial beginning point and then putting it onto the screen.
The beginning point, as I said, is my film partner Alex had some conditions and he wasn't finding relief. He had to have surgery, but then he found a naturopath and one of the conditions was just cured without having the surgery, which other people said he needed. So he started this search to find out, more about what's going on in the medical field. And what he found out is the pharmaceutical companies, have a very strong interest. I mean, there are a lot of lobbyists and they're influencing Congress, and they've got a very strong role in our whole medical treatment system. So we look at statins, which are a pill that's been tested on middle-aged men, but it does a lot of damage. And the cholesterol theory is not the theory that's in vogue anymore. It's outdated, as our movie says. You need to look at the number and the size of the very small LDL particles and the endothelial dysfunction. Cholesterol and trying to get it down is not the way to go because we need cholesterol. It's for all our hormones, it's for the myelin that surrounds and protects our nerves, it's for the cell walls, and if the statin goes into the brain and starts affecting our cell walls and the nerve protections, a lot of bad things can happen. It also depletes CoQ10, affects adiponectin. It does a lot of things, and so it doesn't decrease heart disease.
And this is one of the things, obviously, it's a subject matter whereby, of course, it's educational. People need to understand this and obviously have it presented in a more simplified way? Obviously, I'm no expert. Obviously, you're the expert. You know about this. So, in terms of the technical terms, the wording, ultimately, and obviously, as the tagline says here, what you're eating is killing you.
Yes.
That's so. Then the development of uncovering it. What were the challenges in terms of after the research and then developing a narrative, and obviously then getting it put on screen?
Well, let me divert a little bit. The other topics we cover are statins, genetically modified foods, and how in a country as big as the United States do we let Congress pass a law that we have no right to know if there's toxic genetically modified stuffs in our food. We cover fluoridation of the water, which is going to hurt us. It helps the tooth, but in the body it does some pretty bad things. It's a toxin, it's a neurotoxin. We cover the sugar industry. So the bottom line is the big secret is we've got to be more proactive in our health. We can't just go to the doctor and just follow that paradigm. We work with our doctor, and doctors are excellent at surgery and trauma and emergency care. But we have to be more responsible, looking at our diet, making sure
you only go to the doctors when you need surgery or you're severely ill. On day-to-day living, everyone eats obviously 2 or 3 meals a day, and it needs to be a healthy, balanced diet. As those which are eating all the wrong food, it's just putting them 6 feet under many years earlier.
Exactly. Exactly. We've got to be more proactive. We've got to do our own research. Of course, we go to our doctors and work with them. Maybe sometimes we educate them, but we have to be more proactive. We just can't take the pill and say thank you, because these pills have side effects.
Yeah, I mean, it's the convenience as well. And from my point of view, I'm not going to say I'm perfect with the way I eat, but I look to try and keep fit and healthy as best I can. But it's the companies that advertise, your McDonald's, which are in your face, your Coca-Cola, which is in your face, obviously all these other companies which are out there, and it kind of just takes over everyone's diet, and they think, I'm in a rush, I'm going to quickly grab this. And if you do that enough times over a course of a year, to say what's in it, the salt levels and everything. So do you follow do you follow a strict diet to keep it healthy, or? Just before we've come out, I've seen you obviously eating a nice healthy bowl of salad and quinoa. So
it's more like what I say rather than what I do. I have a weakness for sweets, and I was expecting to imbibe in the croissants. I haven't found any yet here in France, but I'm not perfect. I've got weaknesses, but I'm aware. And there's also things like toxins, and a lot of the information we get is misleading. For example, plastic bottles are, that leaches into our food. But the industry says, oh, we don't have BPA, which is a toxic chemical anymore, but they've got BPB or all the way through BPU. So, I mean, they kind of mislead us in the advertisements, so we have to kind of look under the surface.
Well, that is the big error of, isn't it, is the advertising, the promotion, what they're selling, what they're saying and what they're not saying. Obviously with, obviously not food-wise, but packets of cigarettes where they then had to say on it can cause harm, but then it's still with all the food, and they did a little packaging where it has this much sugar and this much fat and this much calories, this many calories, but it's still manipulated in a way.
They do.
It's the colouring of it. It's let's put green on that to say that it's low in this.
They do. That like trans fats. I mean, you could say there's 0 trans fats, but there's still some in there. I mean, I think. I don't trust them. We have to do our own research. The bottom line is we need to eat organic food because non-organic food has pesticides, there's antibiotics, pesticides. I mean, in the meats, hormones. I mean, the highest source of meat, the highest source of pesticides in the United States is from the meat that we eat. So we want grass-fed meat. We don't want the grain-fed, because then we're getting, as I said, the hormones, the antibiotics, insecticides. And we want fresh fish, not farm fish. I mean, they're adulterating our food so it has increased shelf life. You can take out a ding dong or some processed food, put it on your table, it'll still be there a year from now. If you get something that's organic, it won't be.
It won't be, and that's obviously what we need. I mean, my partner, she cooks all her own sauces, I think, because she knows exactly what's going into it, as opposed to something which might come off the shelf and already done. Obviously, as much as she likes cooking, but she'll do that because she says, I know exactly what goes into it. Not a case of a massive health freak, but wants to watch what they're eating. How can people educate themselves? Is there forums? Is it online? Is it a Google search or an internet search? Or how you're saying that people need to do their own research? What platforms are there for them to do so?
Well, there's many different sources, and there's a lot of people who are trying to sell things, and so they get these big, long films. I mean, they say, this is the answer, and they spend an hour blabbling trying to sell something.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go there. I have a radio talk show called Occupy Health on Voice America. I interview various experts on various topics. That's one place. There's something also called functional medicine, where we look at what's the cause of illness. We can find out 20 years ahead of time which direction the body's going, and we can figure out what supplements to give to make sure it goes in the right direction.
To make sure that you're starting now, so then when your 20 years comes, then Yeah.
So there's functional medicine practitioners, certainly in the United States. There's a large group of them in England, and it's growing in Europe as well, because they will look at the whole picture and they'll want to find the underlying cause. I mean, the allopathic system is disease management, sick care. We're treating symptoms, we're hiding symptoms and creating new ones. We want to find the underlying cause. So go to a naturopath, find a functional medicine practitioner, look at what some of the functional medicine people are doing. In England, the British Association of Applied Nutritional Therapists, they're very good, and there's some other groups, IONS, etc., that's pretty good as well. I mean, so finding a naturopath, finding a nutrition person that's well trained, functional medicine, my radio show, and there's other places as well. But
so
you just have to sort through.
The level of, again, of obviously health and wanting to add longevity to life. People, where they're spending money on personal trainers that then give them a dietary plan. What's your opinion on that?
Well, you got to be careful with training, because if you train too much, it's just as bad as not training at all. Because, I mean, the usual culprits in causing any disease, oxidative stress, inflammation, mitochondrial, which is the energy center's dysfunction, that is revved up if you exercise too much and if you exercise too little. So you've got to, I mean, the best recommendation for exercise is, some exercise that, walk around and get things moving. Then a little bit of aerobic exercise where you're pushing it for, maybe up to a minute, and then more of the other. That's supposed to be the best. But if somebody pushes you too hard and the exercise, it's not good. Walking's good. I mean, you need good sleep, you need good exercise, you need stress reduction, you need a good diet. These lifestyle choices are very important.
I mean, I'd say from my point of view, although I play football, walking is what I do. At the end of this festival, I'm actually then doing a 7-day hike camping, and we're hitting about 15 to 18 miles a day. So over the course of a week, we're doing 120 miles. So I'd like to think that that's going to be good enough for me, because that's what I just like doing, and obviously being out and about, enjoying the fresh air and seeing things. But I don't know how sleep's going to go. I'd assume after 18 miles a day I should sleep fine.
I think that you're doing many of the right things. And diet, there's a lot of controversy about diet. Some people want the ketogenic diet where there's very little sugar, so you burn fat. I mean, there's all sorts of diets that, there's some good parts of each, and there's some bad parts of each.
You just need to kind of take a bit from each, don't you, and then look at what works for you, because everyone's obviously intolerances where people are saying, oh, I'm going to do this, oh no, but I'm gluten or can't have this and can't have that. Everyone needs to find their own, what's right for them. You can't follow the next person, and you can't listen to the advice from the next person, because so they're going to be different to you in what they...
Food sensitivities is very important, because if you're sensitive to something, or eating, I mean, the gluten in the United States, I mean, some experts such as Tom O'Brien say that we just can't digest it. So you get these little clumps, and then they leak because our intestines things leak in and out, go into blood. We get all these antibodies, our whole immune forces goes against it, and that will cross-react with other things. So you'll get thyroid antibodies, and against the pancreas, you'll get diabetes, and against part of the brain, which is the Purkinje cells and cerebellum. You get something called gluten ataxia. So food sensitivities are important. It's going to be different for each person.
Of course it's going to be. So with the film and the filming process, Alex obviously started beginning research. You then got involved. Give us an idea of the timeline, and obviously you knew what you wanted to go out and film. And tell us obviously about the filming process and getting the content, and then the editing, and then all these.
Well, Alex is a 5-time Emmy winner, and he's a genius at editing, and he set out the timeline. I contributed by interviewing getting some more experts and giving them, telling them more about different things, and so we collaborated together, but he's the talent in editing.
Yeah.
And he put together in the initial timeline.
And obviously putting things in, what was the big challenges? Did you come up against anything which was a case of where it halted?
Well, I'm a little concerned about the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
I mean, because in 2014 there were a large number of physicians in the United States who had mysterious deaths. I mean, stabbed, shot, face down in a pond. I mean, so there's a risk doing this. There's a risk, strong risk.
I mean, you look at it and you'd say the pharmaceutical industry is the...
I don't want to say anything, but you kind of follow the money.
Yeah.
I want to, there's a huge risk. I mean, people are putting their lives on the line by saying this kind of thing.
And in terms of the subject matter here, obviously we're speaking off camera, you joined us at our London Festival in February with a documentary which was another expose, as it were, called Brett Pocock, Tip of the Iceberg.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that as well, obviously, and that process and telling that story and how that came about as well for us.
Well, I was aware of the risk with cell phones. I interviewed farmers in Switzerland when the cell towers went in. The farmers all got sick, but not only the farmers, the animals, the plants. So you can't say these farmers are, everybody started getting sick. They didn't know why. I interviewed a man in Italy who the Italian Supreme Court ruled that his brain tumor was caused by cell phones. The research is coming out that cell phones contribute and increase the risk for brain cancers and various other cancers. However, the industry very strongly fights back. It's the same problem, a different arena, and they fight back, and what they do is they come up with research that sounds very confusing. Yeah. Independent research says there's risk. The industry-funded research says they're not. An interesting thing, in the United States they passed a law in 1996.
Sorry, so just you were saying that the finance, the research said there wasn't anything. However, that was then just done off-the-cuff research said there was.
Independent research
right.
Found at least 60, about 2/3 of the study found there's a problem, and the industry-funded research found quite the opposite. But in 1996 in the U.S., they passed a law that it's illegal to stop a cell tower placement for health reasons. Do you think they knew something? And especially with children. Especially with children, their brains are small, they're growing fast, the skulls are thin, so mothers put them on an iPad, and the iPad will say keep it 8 inches away from the baby. It's going to affect the kid's brain. It's already showing we're getting more attention deficit and cognitive problems by, when people are exposed in utero, when the woman's pregnant, to cell phone radiation.
That's the thing. I mean, the amount of use of cell phones, as you just mentioned there, from such a young age, children are using iPads and tablets as a way of engaging, because it's, I want to watch this, I want to watch something on YouTube, and they're holding it to their face to see the characters, and it's scary how involved they get. I've seen children pick up a newspaper and try and pinch it to enlarge an image, and that's just showing how engaged they're getting. So then you think of being exposed from the age of potentially 1 or 2 years old.
Oh, when they're in the womb.
Yeah, of course, because
they come out and there's cognitive deficits. There've been studies showing that. And it's getting ridiculous. There's onesies that they're making that you can put all this Wi-Fi in to measure the baby's heart rate, so you don't have to go up to see how it's doing. There's things that women put in their vaginas so it can sing to the baby, Wi-Fi, and communicate with it. I mean, there's
that's it's firstly potentially making roles and jobs obsolete, I'd assume, and then just with the radio waves and the sound waves and the Wi-Fi and everything, it is going to be frying not the motherboard, but frying the brain, isn't it? And the body and the system.
Yes, and then the smart meters are the same thing. and it's the industry's, pretty strong. There are things we can do to protect ourselves. I know of a man in Britain that makes a lot of different things that will protect us, but I mean, people need to be aware. I mean, they just put 19 cell towers a block and a half from my house, and I went down to the town meeting and they could care less.
Really?
They wouldn't even listen.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think they don't care? Is it a fear of government, or is it just a case of you're a small person knocking on a big door? What?
First of all, I live in the ground central of Silicon Valley, and they think they know everything.
Right.
But second of all, the industry is very busy, and I mean, what the big industry does is an issue. They create confusion, they create doubt. I mean, the genetically modified proposition in California to label it. I mean, they came out with, well, dog food's labeled, but beef's not. I mean, how many genetically modified cows are they? They just confuse people, and so they just think, that people are saying what I'm saying, you're a conspiracy theorist.
That's the thing I was going to say.
They just write us off as a whack job.
Obviously, with this in mind, obviously not wanting to plug another documentary, but what came to my mind was back at the Super Size Me documentary, which Morgan Spurlock did, where he went and had the McDonald's, and he obviously had the science and the studies done prior to it. Had he carried on, factually, it would have killed him.
Yes.
And you look and think the amount of people that do that, say, for the convenience. So it's not the conspiracy theory. If you're presenting people with a well-researched study where you're getting the voices from both sides, obviously I know there's documentaries which come out and they tilt it so much in one favour to say this is the right thing, but you need to get the balance.
Yes.
But it is factual, of course. Putting shit in your mouth is going to be killing you, and if you don't know what you're eating, then you're uneducated. But then some people can't be helped, can they?
But Congress seems to be bought. This is my big issue. Who cares what candidate we have? Let's, everything they say about everybody's true. Let's look at the real issue. Congress is bought. They're the ones that decide to fluorinate our waters. They're the ones that decide we've got no right to know if it's genetically modified stuff. The FDA with modifying, that's Federal Drug Association, or the various regulation agencies, the staff go back from the leading the government, back to the lobbyists, back and forth, and they've got a certain point of view. I mean, I see Congress as a problem. They're passing these things that hurt us,
and they're going to pass it down to the next one,
and they get paid for it.
Of course they do. That's the thing. And you look at it and think these are obviously of certain demographic and age, and obviously genders. But then they're going to pass down this. This is how you must carry on the procedure to the next era of Congress, and then it's a vicious cycle, isn't it? Until
the industry interests are strong, and they'll come out and they'll confuse things. And I think people are asleep; they're not aware.
And I think the main, obviously, phrase which I know is they baffle people with bullshit, and that's what they're doing. They're waffling, they're saying certain things, and it's manipulation. And where they're shaking a hand here, they're doing elsewhere. And obviously, people aren't realising.
That's the way I see it.
So, with the Big Secret, obviously, I know we've the two documentaries that I'm aware that you've been involved in. Do you like the meaty stuff in terms of the subject matter and not the sort of exposing?
I want to wake people up.
Yeah.
I want people to be aware. I don't like the idea of being a sheep and just led to slaughter and say, yes, everything's wonderful. I want people to be aware. Wake up.
It's interesting. When my, not to this level, but I studied film and media, and when I'd done my diploma, I'd done a documentary called Consumer Armageddon. And it was basically based on the coercion, manipulation of advertising and buying things that we want and don't need. And how companies do manipulate you to, say, buy products and advertise Nike and all the different things and cards and bags and to these models and the advertising and the way that you need to be. People don't need to do all of this, and that's why I like this sort of subject matter, or if it's the Louis Theroux style, where you're not just going to accept it. And most of society accepts things, don't they? Whereas you don't. Alex hasn't, when obviously bringing this to the table.
You say something against cell phones, in some areas are smart meters, and you're looked at as, they'll just totally shout you down. Same for genetically modified stuff. I don't know what's going on with Congress there, because the research is out that the glyphosate that's used as the insecticide is harming us. People are getting very sick. The research is out. My college roommate Stephanie Seneff has done a lot of the research. It's out, but when people bring this up, we're going to be seen as quacks.
That's the thing, and it's as if you're in the minority for wanting to save, not like a superhero as such, but at the end of the day, it's lives, isn't it? It's lives, it's longevity, it's what we eat, and what obviously next generations eat is going to affect the children that people have, because they're going to, the habits that they have, the diseases that may,
I mean, the
may
brains are
be
going to
born
be
with.
affected by having Wi-Fi near the abdomen.
Yeah, of course they are.
There's girls putting their cell phones in their bras.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And they're
going
getting
about
tumors right along where all the antennae are.
People get educated, and again, and it's varying with people. Obviously, I've got friends which do their research. Adam, who's off camera, I know someone that does a lot of research into things. Other people that then just sit and they become educated through social media. And they'll sit there, and again, they're becoming educated through social media in terms of the big secret, but then also they're with their wife, with their phones and everything in their hand for...
Well, we're always going to have these devices, but we have to use them safely.
Use them, yeah.
Distance is your friend. Don't use a cell phone in a moving vehicle, because you're in a metal container, your head's the antenna. So that goes for buses, trains, elevators. You know, when you're moving from one signal to another, it's when it's searching for a signal and it's weak, that's the most risk, because it's a change. All the studies are just warped. They're based on...
So fascinating to hear all this, because although I'm aware of it, I'm not to this level. And the frustrating thing is, I'll probably go on my phone and sit in front of my laptop in about 10 minutes' time.
I'm on my laptop.
And you're on your laptop as well.
Most of the time.
Yeah, and that's just the thing. You look at, but sometimes that's the medium that we've been given to operate and do our day-to-day.
But there are things we can do to protect ourselves. I mean, when you're not using your cell phone, put it on airplane mode. That's even safer than having it off. But you know, a moving vehicle, it's not the amount of signal you're getting, it's a change in the signal.
It's a change, right?
So
okay.
when you're going from a tower to tower, you've got a weak signal, it's the most risk.
Okay.
So keep it as a distance. I mean, don't necessarily carry it in your body unless it's on airplane mode. There are certain things that people have to protect themselves, as clothing that will block it. You can actually paint your houses. There's various gadgets that I'm wearing, and you know, I mean, you can take these are gadgets. You can take a meter, and you know, you can test all the EMF around me, and it'll still be there with these things. But these things, the theory is they change the energy of the body, so it doesn't affect your body in such a way, and that needs another kind of testing, not a meter.
Proven, or is that rubbish?
A lot of people say it's rubbish. Probably some of the stuff I'm wearing is rubbish. But for example, in Switzerland, what they did, there's something called biological geometry, and this guy, his name is Dr. Abram, he's an Egyptian. He went in and put these various shapes and stuff. This is one of his things.
Right.
And everybody got well. This is another one of his things. Everybody got well. Well, that's anecdotal evidence. The plants and the animals got well. And the country of Switzerland was actually negotiating with them to put something in. That's one thing you can do. Is it true or not? I don't know.
You don't know, but there's no harm in.
There's a lot of different realities, and this one might be 10% true, and you just take a little bit of each and hope. There are clothes that can actually block it.
Yeah.
That you can prove more scientifically.
I know in houses you can get the Wi-Fi signal blockers as well, can't you? Like, I don't know if it's on the walls or something, whereby all of a sudden it stops the signals. Yeah.
What you can do is turn it off at night. There's a Dr. Sinatra who's a well-known cardiologist in the U.S.
Yep.
And his son started getting very, very sick and lost half his weight. He was about to die. And a well-known cardiologist, nobody could help him. He was just praying to God. He just didn't know what to do. He just felt helpless. Then his son got better, went home. Same thing happened. Turned out there was a Wi-Fi station just on the other side of the wall where the son was sleeping. And the son lost half his weight. So, I mean, yeah, you could say it's anecdotal evidence. Some of this stuff, I don't know how you're going to prove it, because it's done with a technique that naturopaths use.
Right.
And so, you know,
It's
you
little
know,
things that you
don't.
can try.
I mean,
as you
some of
say.
it's not scientific. You just kind of hope, but you know, wearing certain protective
I've
clothes.
seen, like,
Turn
the
your
people
Wi-Fi off at
Turn the
night.
Wi-Fi off, right.
Or I use Ethernet. I just plug my computer and don't have
okay.
Wi-Fi in my house.
Right, so it's all just
Same
run
in
off the
London.
cables.
I just use Ethernet, not the
That's
Wi-Fi.
a good way of doing it. So, what's obviously off camera, we've had a conversation about the big secret and how you've had some positive conversations this week. Mm-hmm. What would you like the next steps to be?
I would like that my film be seen by a lot of people so that at least they can think about it. This film was intended to start a discussion. We don't
Which
claim
it
to have
has.
the answers. We want to start the discussion so people are at least talking about it and thinking about it. I want to make more films. The next one I'm thinking of is on genetically modified materials and on ozone treatments.
I love the subject matters that you cover. I think
Yeah.
it's fascinating. I think it's brilliant. It may well already be there, but this needs to be promoted on social media because that's where most of the eyes are. That's where people will see a tagline, as we've already discussed, that, and all of a sudden it promotes interest, it promotes a conversation, which is exactly what you're looking for.
Yes.
People need to see it, and then
Wake
it's going
people
to
up.
share. Wake people up and go from one place to another. It gets seen, it gets shared, and all of a sudden the subject matter is in front of millions of eyes, and even if you're not going to affect and change the opinions of everyone, but you'll change enough people to look at it and go, yeah, you know what?
Yeah. The United States is too preoccupied at arguing which candidate is worse.
Yeah.
Let's look at the real issue. Congress is the one that's supposed to be passing the laws. Let's look at them and how they're bought. I mean, but it's so antagonistic that if you criticize one of the candidates, the other people can even slit your tires. I mean, you can't even talk about this. Let's look at the real
Living
issue.
in fear.
Let's look at what Congress is doing. We've got, there are two choices and people are going to argue. Let's look at Congress. Let's stop arguing and look what we have in common.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, thank you so much for coming to the festivals. We'll hopefully see more of this, and I'll be watching closely for other exposés so that you can start discussions across the board. But everyone, check out The Big Secret and start having a conversation because it's kind of important. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you.